Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're diving into the topic of North Korea and its contentious relationship with the United States. As North Korea continues to test nuclear weapons and develop missile technology, the U.S. has maintained a firm stance against its actions. Many nations have shown unwavering support for the United States, condemning North Korea's aggression and seeking to curb its nuclear ambitions. Be sure to like, subscribe, and watch till the end as we explore 10 countries that stand 100% with the US in opposing North Korea. Let's break it down. Number 10, Sweden, known for its commitment to peace, humanitarianism, and international diplomacy, stands alongside the United States in its opposition to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. Sweden has consistently advocated for diplomatic solutions and multilateral sanctions against North Korea, aligning its policies with the European Union and the United Nations. Despite Sweden's reputation for neutrality, it has not hesitated to support international efforts to prevent the escalation of nuclear threats, particularly from North Korea. In 2017, Sweden was among the countries that strongly condemned North Korea's missile tests and nuclear weapons program. Swedish officials expressed deep concern over the threat North Korea poses not just to its immediate neighbors, but to the entire world. The emotional connection to this issue in Sweden stems from its strong stance against nuclear weapons, as Sweden has long been an advocate for nuclear disarmament. Sweden's diplomatic engagement with the U.S. on this issue highlights its commitment to international cooperation to ensure global security. Sweden's support for the U.S. is crucial in maintaining a unified front on sanctions and in encouraging dialogue with North Korea. The country's role in conflict prevention and its membership in international peacekeeping missions make it an important voice in the fight to contain North Korea's growing military power. Number 9, Japan. Japan has long been a critical partner for the United States in its efforts to counter North Korea. Located just across the Sea of Japan from North Korea, Japan faces an imminent threat from Pyongyang's missile tests, with North Korean missiles flying dangerously close to Japanese airspace. The Japanese government has consistently supported U.S. efforts to exert pressure on North Korea, particularly through economic sanctions and military cooperation. In 2017, Japan expressed its deep concern when North Korea conducted a series of nuclear tests and missile launches, including a missile that flew over Hokkaido in northern Japan. Japan has also been an active participant in UN sanctions aimed at North Korea, implementing stringent restrictions on trade and finance. The U.S.-Japan Security Treaty remains a cornerstone of Japan's defense strategy, with U.S. military bases in Okinawa providing a crucial deterrent against any North Korean aggression. Japan views North Korea's missile and nuclear ambitions as a direct threat to its national security. The emotional toll of living under the shadow of North Korea's provocations is deeply felt in Japan, with many citizens fearing the possibility of a future conflict. Japan's backing of U.S. policies on North Korea is not just political, but rooted in the urgent need for security in a volatile region. Despite diplomatic tensions with the U.S. over other issues, Japan remains unwavering in its commitment to support Washington against Pyongyang's aggression. Number 8, Finland. Finland stands firmly with the United States in its opposition to North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. As a member of the European Union, Finland has consistently supported EU sanctions against North Korea, which target key sectors of the economy, including trade and energy. Finland's emotional stance comes from its commitment to international peace and security, as it recognizes the dangers that a nuclear-armed North Korea poses to global stability. Although Finland is geographically distant from North Korea, it remains deeply invested in the global nuclear non-proliferation effort. In 2017, Finland expressed grave concern over North Korea's missile tests and nuclear detonations, calling them provocations that threaten peace not only in East Asia but globally. The Finnish government has urged multilateral efforts to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions, echoing the U.S. position on the importance of strict diplomatic measures. Finland's emotional response is tied to its own history of neutrality and its desire to prevent conflict in Europe. As a nation with a strong reputation for diplomacy, Finland remains committed to supporting international frameworks that pressure North Korea to abandon its nuclear weapons. This alignment with the U.S. is rooted in Finland's broader goal of ensuring global security and peace, particularly in a world where nuclear proliferation remains a key threat. Number 7, United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has long been a steadfast supporter of the United States' stance against North Korea, consistently backing U.S. policies in international forums like the United Nations. As a permanent member of the UN Security Council, the UK has supported various rounds of sanctions against North Korea, including economic restrictions, arms embargoes, and travel bans on key figures within the regime. The UK views North Korea's nuclear weapons program as a grave threat to global security, particularly because of the regime's provocative missile tests and the potential for nuclear proliferation. In 2017, after North Korea conducted its most powerful nuclear test, the UK echoed the US's condemnation, calling for further international pressure on Pyongyang. Prime Minister Theresa May at the time stated that the UK would work alongside its allies to ensure North Korea was isolated. The emotional response from the British public to North Korea's threats has been one of deep concern, especially in relation to the risk of nuclear conflict. The UK sees the issue not just as a regional one, but as a global security challenge, making it crucial for them to support US efforts in pressuring Pyongyang. Through its unwavering backing of the US and its close military ties with Washington, the UK remains a critical partner in addressing the North Korean threat. Number 6, Canada. As a member of NATO and a close ally of the United States, has consistently supported U.S. efforts to counter North Korea's nuclear and missile programs. In line with UN sanctions, Canada has enforced restrictions on trade, travel, and financial activities with North Korea. The Canadian government has repeatedly condemned North Korea's provocations and nuclear tests, advocating for a multilateral response to ensure that the regime faces serious consequences for its destabilizing actions. Canada's support for the U.S. is also rooted in its commitment to international peace and global security. In 2017, Canada joined its allies in imposing sanctions, freezing assets of North Korean officials and entities, and urging other nations to do the same. Canada's geographical distance from the Korean peninsula does not lessen the perceived threat posed by North Korea's nuclear weapons. Canadians view the risk of nuclear escalation with great concern, especially given the potential for global instability that Pyongyang's actions could provoke. Emotionally, Canada's support for the U.S. in this matter is deeply tied to its values of multilateralism and international cooperation to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons. The ongoing crisis has underscored the importance of unity in addressing the threats posed by North Korea, and Canada continues to stand shoulder to shoulder with the U.S. in seeking to contain Pyongyang's ambitions. Number 5, Germany. As a key member of the European Union and a NATO ally, has consistently supported U.S. policies against North Korea, particularly in the context of nuclear non-proliferation. Germany views North Korea's nuclear ambitions as a serious threat not only to regional stability, but to global security. Germany has been an active participant in the UN Security Council discussions and supports the EU sanctions targeting North Korean entities involved in its nuclear and missile programs. In 2017, Germany strongly condemned North Korea's nuclear tests and ballistic missile launches, calling for increased diplomatic pressure and multilateral efforts to resolve the crisis. Germany's emotional response to North Korea's actions is deeply tied to the country's history, particularly its commitment to peace and the prevention of nuclear conflict in Europe. As a nation that has experienced the devastating consequences of war and nuclear weapons firsthand, Germany is especially sensitive to the potential for escalation in East Asia. Germany continues to support the U.S. in its efforts to contain North Korea, including diplomatic efforts to bring about dialogue and a peaceful resolution. However, Germany also advocates for humanitarian aid to those suffering under North Korea's oppressive regime, which adds a complex layer to its support for U.S. policy. Number 4, Australia. Australia has consistently supported the United States in its stance against North Korea, aligning its foreign policy with Washington's efforts to counter the North's nuclear ambitions. As a close ally of the U.S. and a member of the Five Eyes intelligence alliance, Australia has been involved in enforcing UN sanctions against North Korea and condemning its nuclear and missile tests. Australia's support for the U.S. is partly driven by the desire to maintain peace and stability in the Asia-Pacific region, an area of critical importance to Australia's security and economic interests. In 2017, when tensions escalated after a series of missile tests, Australia's Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull publicly stated that North Korea's actions posed a significant threat to global security and reaffirmed Australia's commitment to the U.S. policy of maximum pressure on the regime. Australia has also participated in joint military exercises with the US and South Korea, strengthening its position as a strong partner in regional defense. For Australia, North Korea's weapons program represents a dangerous destabilizing factor in the region, and the emotional toll of potential conflict weighs heavily on the minds of Australians. Despite being geographically distant from the Korean peninsula, Australia views the North's actions as a direct challenge to global order and has stood firmly by the US in its efforts to contain North Korea's nuclear capabilities. Number 3, Italy. Italy is a strong supporter of the United States in its stance against North Korea, particularly when it comes to ensuring global security and preventing the spread of nuclear weapons. As a member of NATO and the European Union, Italy has consistently backed the US in pushing for sanctions and diplomatic measures against North Korea. In 2017, Italy condemned North Korea's nuclear tests and missile launches, calling them a violation of international law. Italy's support for the US is also based on its commitment to maintaining peace in the Asia-Pacific region, which is critical for global stability. Italy's emotional connection to this issue stems from its own history of military engagement and the devastation caused by conflict. With the European Union, Italy has taken a firm stance on economic sanctions against North Korean businesses and individuals involved in nuclear proliferation. The Italian government has supported UN resolutions calling for tougher actions to pressure North Korea to comply with international norms. While Italy's geographical distance from North Korea makes it seem less directly affected, the broader implications for global peace and nuclear security weigh heavily on the minds of Italian leaders. Italy views North Korea's actions as a destabilizing force, and thus it stands firmly with the US to prevent any further escalation. Number 2, Poland. Poland has been one of the United States' key allies in Europe, consistently backing US policies, including those aimed at countering North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Poland's support stems from its historical experiences with aggression and occupation, which has led the country to strongly value security, peace, and stability. As a member of NATO and the European Union, Poland has fully supported economic sanctions against North Korea. This includes measures that target North Korean industries, individuals, and military officials connected to the regime's nuclear program. In 2017, when North Korea conducted a series of missile tests and a nuclear detonation, Poland was quick to condemn the actions, urging for increased diplomatic pressure on Pyongyang. The emotional toll of living in a region previously dominated by the Soviet Union makes Poland sensitive to the threats posed by authoritarian regimes like North Korea. Poland has consistently aligned with US policies, seeing them as a counterbalance to global threats. Additionally, Poland's participation in military and intelligence sharing arrangements with NATO ensures that it is deeply involved in efforts to address the North Korean challenge. Poland's commitment to defending democracy and international security plays a key role in its unwavering support for US actions against North Korea. Number 1, South Korea. Situated on the front lines of the Korean peninsula is the United States' most crucial ally in countering North Korea's provocations. With its proximity to North Korea, South Korea has been directly impacted by Pyongyang's aggressive behavior. Over the years, South Korea has been a staunch supporter of U.S. policies aimed at containing North Korea's nuclear and missile program. The Seoul-Washington alliance is fundamental to the defense of the South, with thousands of U.S. troops stationed in South Korea as part of military cooperation. South Korea has also participated in various UN sanctions against North Korea, fully backing efforts to isolate the regime economically. The emotional impact of North Korea's threats is deeply felt in South Korea, as Seoul is within range of North Korean artillery and missile systems. Over 50 million South Koreans live under the constant shadow of the North's military threat. The 2017 missile test by North Korea only heightened tensions, prompting a surge in defense spending by South Korea. South Koreans view their security as inseparable from U.S. presence and support, with many citizens grateful for the protection provided by U.S. military forces in the region. Despite occasional diplomatic overtures from Pyongyang, South Korea remains steadfast in its backing of U.S. efforts to prevent further escalation. These nations are united in their unwavering support for the United States against North Korea's nuclear threats. Their commitment to global peace and security is vital in the ongoing efforts to prevent escalation. Like, comment, and subscribe for more insights into international relations and security issues. See you next time